Hey everyone, your Midnight Moderator here. I'm sorry it's been so long since I've been here. Between holidays and sickness, I had both no time and no voice. But I'm finally over, or at least mostly over, whatever my throat's been fighting for the last month or so. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday, and I hope you're enjoying the story so far. If you are enjoying it, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel for notifications on new uploads. Also, you're welcome to join the Midnight Forum's Discord server, where my friends and subscribers have everything from silly conversations to updates about new content, submissions for requests, and everything of the sort. So, if there's anything you'd like to see from this channel, or any feedback you'd like to leave for me, that's where you want to go. You can also leave a comment below. So, without further ado, hello, and welcome to the Midnight Forum. My dear adventurer, once again, I thank you for taking this journey with me. My night is already long, and the tale is far from over. My sorrows embody the weight of my guilt. Try as I must for optimism, as steeped as I am in the tenets of my order, my mind is yet shackled by grief. Please permit me a moment to reflect. Moments in time. The touch of cool rain on a summer day. The joyous laughter of companions. The atmosphere of an alehouse filled with music after a long day's work. The whisper of a lover's confession, the taste of her lips. The serenity of meditation by riverside in the spring. Life is composed of such moments, and they are, each one, important in their own right. But there are moments in time which define us, decisions made which determine who we are and what we will become. Time is valuable, as once it is gone, it can never be returned to us. But it can be valued in what payment we are willing to accept, in what we are willing to spend it on, what we are willing to invest our time in, and who we are willing to spend it with. But those moments, those precious gems of possibility, those rare and treasured echoes in time, those fragments of self-discovery when your mettle and character are truly tested, those defining moments, those moments are priceless. One moment in particular has plagued my mind for most of my unlife. It was my defining moment that set me upon the path I now trod. One of redemption, for in that moment I nearly lost all that ever could have mattered, more than the answers I sought. More than all the beauty and serenity the world could muster, more than my freedom, more than my life itself. I prayed daily that she would forgive me. The town shrank into distant horizon behind us as we traveled onward. I did not know to where we traveled, but the road was wide, and passage was simple. I said nothing as we walked. Hours passed on the road in silence. I felt Enid's eyes glance occasionally in my direction, contemplating my silence. I felt her pity. I did not need pity. I would have slain every one of them had she not intervened. I was unsure just how I felt about this. The greater part of me was indifferent. My fury had simmered within me, tamped by panic. A sensation that was as alien to me as my own pulse, but still, fury remained. a dimly glowing ember within the core of my being. I pondered silently to myself why this was so. The people of Kamu had done nothing to me, only been about their own business, heedless to myself and my condition. They had been content to live out their daily lives, busying themselves with menial tasks and chores, laughing all the while. It occurred to me then that their joy is what had enraged me so. My musing was cut short by Enid's hand upon my forearm. She looked up at my face. Seeing something in my eyes that caused a concerned look, she paused, her eyes upon mine, and I could see a question drawing forward.
Azure, are you alright?
She started.
If you need to talk...
I continued walking forward, lengthening my already long stride. She struggled to keep pace with me. Where are we going?
There's a town just southwest of here,
she said.
I felt something back there in Kamu. When you started to lose control, I could tell something was...
I stopped, turned abruptly, and she almost collided with me. I stared down upon her in sharp silence.
I didn't tell you because, well, I thought you needed some quiet, and you weren't talking to me anyway.
I turned and strode forward at double my previous pace.
Azure, wait!
Enid called from behind, her breath labored.
I can't walk that fast. Can you please slow down?
I once again turned and this time pressed up against her. She shrunk beneath the pressure. You will walk, Enid, or I will drag you. I could see the hurt in her eyes. We walked for only a minute or so. Enid practically running behind me, crying out with labored breaths that she did not want to lose me before I spotted something on the road ahead. Upon closer inspection, it seemed a cart had been overturned. I glanced over my shoulder at Enid, who looked as though she was about to collapse, and I shook my head. Perhaps we would do well to have a cart at our disposal. A young man lay on the road next to the cart, nursing some fresh wounds. Ah, travelers, well met.
What?
Started Enid from behind, gasping for breath.
What happened to you?
Bandits, the man stated. Worse every year, I'm afraid. This road was never a target, but times are changing. He glanced between Enid and myself. You headed to Stock? Enid nodded. Well, I can take you there if you're willing to help me out. I just need to make a stop at my father's burial ground to leave these flowers, but with things the way they are, I'm not sure I can finish the trip myself. You take me there, and I'll take you into town.
Azure?
Enid looked up at me. I could see her eyes pleading for rest.
It would get us to town faster than walking.
I nodded. I stepped forward, turning the cart back over with a single movement. The man made a clicking sound, and his horse stepped into place, ready to be fastened to the cart. Within minutes, we were on our way. The rest of the trip was uneventful. We arrived at the graveyard shortly after dusk. Immediately after arriving, though, both Enid and myself could tell something was not right.
Can you feel that?
She asked in a hushed voice. I stared into the rows of graves. Yes, I replied.
Let's be careful,
she returned. I turned and considered her for a moment, then nodded, and we continued after the man, who was now on foot. It took only a few moments to reach his father's grave, and he stood there for a few minutes in silence. He then placed his hand atop the slate-colored stone that adorned the grave and rested his flowers upon it. Thank you, he said. With that simple utterance, the strange atmosphere of the place intensified. Unnatural and heavy, it weighed upon us both, but the man seemed unaffected by it. At a glance, though, he quickly saw it in our eyes. What is it?
I'm not sure, but it feels like...
I felt the pinprick of instinctual dread. Before any of us detected it, I somehow knew something terrible was coming, and it was coming quickly. "Go!" I shouted to the man. With a slick ringing of steel, Requiem was drawn forth. The man hesitated for a moment, and as he started forward, the earth beneath us began to rumble. Dirt and rock gave way to bone and rotten flesh, and the dead around us began to claw their way to the surface. I stared about me in absolute horror. I could not fight them. They were like me. Something had raised these people. They had no control over themselves. How could I cause greater suffering to them when I knew the oppressive torment of a shackled soul? They shambled forward, and I stepped back. They swung their weapons at me, and I shoved them away. I struck no blow against them. I could not. Enid struggled to fight them, exhausted by the day's travel. She fought back with little more than a dagger and some simple magic, barely managing to hold her own. Daggers did little against creatures who already lacked flesh, and magic required concentration and precision of mind, something that exhaustion very quickly depleted. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the panicked man climb aboard his cart. I called out to him, but before I knew it, he was gone. We were alone and overwhelmed.
Azure!
Enid cried to me.
Azure, please, I need you to fight.
I tried to respond, to reason. I could not. I did not know what to do. I remained unharmed with little difficulty. I was strong and durable, but I was unable to remove myself. The sheer number of undead around us was staggering. It was as though they had multiplied. Once again, I felt that heavy atmosphere. Once again, I felt the prick of instinctual dread. I pushed and shoved so hard that limbs were disconnected and collided with the skeletal figures behind, but my eyes could see no end to it. A rhythmic, earth-shaking rumble interrupted us. I saw nothing that could cause this, nothing beyond this sea of bone and rot. My feet shook beneath me with each pulse, and I heard Enid's whimpering voice from behind. I assumed that she was afraid. I assumed this until I heard the sound that will haunt me until the end of my days. The impact of something heavy upon a body, the rending slice of blade into flesh, the sickening crack of bone. I turned to see Enid, suspended a few feet into the air, impaled upon an enormous axe, wielded by a hideous undead beast that I could not describe. She lay limp upon the weapon, and the beast took her in its putrid claw, drawing her toward a gaping maw of razor-like bone. There are moments in life that define us. There are moments that determine the path our lives will take. There are moments in which our decisions shape our very selves and tell us who we truly are. And in that moment, I chose to fight. I did not hesitate. I paid no mind to hopeless odds. I no longer considered the state of the beings around me. Requiem raised, I charged forth, cleaving a path through the thronging masses of undead. Among them, I discovered a heater shield and I grasped it, swinging it to cut and smash my way through. As I fought, the images of Enid's book flashed through my mind, and something connected. Heat erupted from my eyes as the rage overtook my very being. The azure glow became fire, spreading to engulf my form, extending to Requiem, and it cut through and burned down the undead horde to the last. I charged and tackled the monstrosity that had taken Enid. My hands sunk into its chest, and intense flames erupted forth. It burned to cinder from the inside. Caked in mud and ash, I rushed to Enid's side where she lay. I frantically searched about, finding her book where it sat nearby on the ground. One page caught my attention, and somehow, understanding it, I lay my hand on Enid's chest and her bleeding stopped. Her gasping breaths, shallow and rattling, told me that she desperately needed medical attention that I could not provide. I recalled her words to me that morning. "It's all right. You're all right. We'll get through this." I lifted her frail body into my arms and tore through the night as fast as my legs would take me.